Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Music Den. I'm your host, Armando Venditti. Hoping you guys are having a great day. And above all else, that you're indeed looking after yourselves and one another. Before I get into the topic of this episode, I want to welcome back to the channel Mr. Ken Cheshire. How's it going, Ken?
Doing well. Thanks for having me back and talking about the boss.
There you go. Thank God that you're back, because it wouldn't be the same without you. And we also have the man of the hour, Mr. Jim Bricker. How's it going, Jim?
Hello, I'm doing fine, guys. Happy to be back with you.
Happy that you're here. Ladies and gentlemen, as Ken alluded to, we are talking about the boss, Bruce Springsteen. We're going to be covering a very special album review in this edition of the Music Den. We are calling it Babs, Big Ass Bruce Box Set. And we are specifically talking about Tracks 2, which is a seven album set released by Bruce Springsteen. And I'll just give you the specifics of it. Tracks 2 was released on June 27th, 2025. It was recorded between 1983 and 2018, released through CBS and Columbia Records. This is a massive set. Has a playing time of 319 minutes and 46 seconds. Now, this is an 83 song box set, 74 of which have never been released before. And there's some alternate versions of songs that have been released before. This is his follow-up release to his Tracks 4 CD set that was released on November 10th, 1998. Again, this is a mammoth set, and it chronicles the years. So the word chronicles the years between 1983 to 2018, and it's quite the set. But we'll get into that. So before I continue with my spiel about it, I'm going to pass the virtual mic as I see on my screen down to Jim.
Hello. Yeah, so I guess we're going to talk about this disc by disc and just sort of give our general impressions about what we feel and how Bruce did and how this sort of fits into context. So disc one, correct me if I'm wrong here, Armando, is the
Yes,
LA Garage sessions that were recorded in '83. So this was in between Nebraska and Born in the USA.
yes,
Um,
yes.
let's see. My my quick assessment of this is that, yeah, it's pretty clear why most of these were shelved. Um, if I recall correctly, the LA Garage Sessions disc is the longest one on there.
Yeah, it clocks in at 67 minutes and 34 seconds.
Okay.
Just a little.
So yeah, so unlike everything else in this collection, this was not conceived as an album. Um, this was just more of outtakes, sort of chronicling the journey like between Nebraska and Born in the
Yeah,
USA.
yeah.
Um, Yeah, my impression is that these are the songs that Bruce had to get out of his system to kind of get to, the good stuff that would end up sort of surfacing on Born in the USA. Um, the one difference here is an early version of My Hometown, which is uh it's sounds like a demo, it's a bit more up tempo, a bit higher in, I don't know if it's pitch or key,
He sings in a
but
higher key. Yeah, he does.
yeah,
Yes.
and it's complementing, I think, just the instruments all being in the higher key too. um I don't know, man. When I first heard this, I feared for the entire rest of the set because I'm like, oh man, these are some just subpar Bruce songs. Um, I haven't been the hugest fan of Bruce's output since Tunnel of Love, and these all seemed just like songs of that quality, post Tunnel of Love or less. Um, there are, a lot of little standouts here or there, but the majority of Bruce's catalog I've just not been that enamored with. And again, to me, the Garage Sessions disc is just him trying to, you know, clear out his head. and really be able to get to the songs that are great. The analogy I'll make is that authors um, will often sit down and just start writing to sort of get their creative juices flowing, not necessarily before they kind of sit down to properly write their book. Stephen King talks about that in some of his pieces. John Steinbeck, I know, would write a letter to someone just as a way to sort of get his juices flowing and
Yeah.
exercise his mental muscles, just to sort of get the stuff out before getting to the good stuff. That's what this disc reminds me of. It's just the stuff that you had to sort of get out of the way in order to say, okay, now I'm ready to write some frickin' songs.
May I make one note? Um,
You may make several.
well, I kind of look at it. I get what you're saying about, some of the stuff may be subpar on the first disc on the 83 sessions, but you got to remember, for me, this wasn't released right away. I mean, this was shelved for quite a few years, and it wasn't like he was rushing to release this. Oh, I wrote a new song, even if it's like a minute. Oh, I got to record it and release it. It's like this was put on the back burner and held up for quite a bit. So
Hmm.
this wasn't like a rush job, so kind of thing to be released. But I get what you're saying.
Well,
Uh,
yeah, I mean like
no,
talking about the Stephen King thing and the,
yeah,
Steinbeck analogy, those are things like to individual people. They aren't meant to be sort of statements. Now,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, no,
it's clear why this stuff sat on a shelf since 1983 to now. That's my point, is
okay,
that,
no,
this is, you
fair.
often speak of Armando about like this is an album this person had to make. Well, maybe these are the songs that Springsteen needed to write and record just to get him out of the system.
Yeah, true enough. And this was done over the garage of a home he was renting out in LA at the time. So yeah, no, no, fair enough, fair enough. Continue.
That's I'm done.
Okay,
Baton
okay.
to Ken.
Again,
Well, I mean, I find it hard to really be able to evaluate these songs because they're demos. He's sitting there with probably a 2 or 4 track recorder, with a
yeah,
guitar.
four track.
Um,
Yeah,
and just because there's lots of evidence of artists and even Bruce that uh, what started out as a demo, if it was actually completed and mixed and put on an album with the band, turned out very different. So, and in my hometown, I think is a pretty good example. So, and on a lot of these box sets, um, artists release a lot of demos.
sure.
Um, but usually they're demos of songs that ended up on an album or ended up as an album.
Yeah,
Um, so I think this is probably just a representation of other stuff that he was working on at the time. Honestly, I Bruce lost me after The River. I do like Nebraska. There's some really nice stuff on Nebraska, but nothing after that for years. Um, I'm not a big fan for Born in the USA, probably because it was just played ad nauseum. Um, and so, and it just seemed more, poppy. It didn't seem as edgy as the first 4 albums, especially. But anyway, listening to this, the songs um, all pretty much fall into the same patterns and modes that Bruce was doing at the time.
yeah.
I found it irritate. What irritated me was the echoes, the echo effect that he used on his vocals.
Okay.
So it's just like, oh, here we go again. Here we go again. Here we go again. And I find that the songs were not distinctive enough individually for anything to really stand out. But there again, I just kind of leaving this album alone because it's demos. And as a musician, I've spent many, 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 many hours over the decades trying to write songs. I don't have it in me. So so I wish I could. I've always wanted to be able to write good songs. So, I don't usually comment much on songwriting when someone that's really good just doesn't get it right.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, but this is a disc that's really gonna appeal to hardcore Springsteen fans.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and yeah, it remains to be seen if any of these albums will be released individually. Probably not with all of these, with every track being available streaming. But
Yeah.
yeah, we've got a good fan over on X that's a huge Bruce fan.
Yeah.
So I'm not quite sure what he feels about this box set yet. He hadn't responded, but it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, just in glancing the charts online, apparently this set is hit as high as uh, number 8 on one of the charts. So, which is pretty good for a box set. Usually, box sets
Yeah.
don't achieve that high of a chart position. For me, with this album, yeah, they are demos. They are
Mhm.
demos. You know, this is, I guess, a pretty good snapshot of where he was between Nebraska and Born in the USA. It's all right. It's for the collector.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's for the collector in
I
that
mean, it's neat to
respect.
hear that embryonic version of My Hometown with that
yeah,
early kind of arrangement that
Yeah,
doesn't work
yeah,
at all,
yeah,
but
yeah,
you know,
yeah. And when you just a little brief note, little footnote, when you said about Ken about Born in the USA being too commercial, 14 songs, 7 singles. Do the math. There we go. Enough. Moving on. But I'm not one to gossip, so you didn't hear that from me. So we are moving on. Next in the
I just want to throw
yes,
something out to our listeners. They have released a 20 track compilation
yeah,
called Lost and Found, selections from the Lost album.
that's right.
If you don't want to fork out, you know, 6 months of mortgage payments for the box set, looking at the track listing, it looks like pretty representative of the whole box set. So,
Yeah,
single disc.
ladies and gentlemen, the tracks is being listed on Amazon.ca. The CD version is going for $377. The vinyl version, 9 LP version, is going for $472, I do believe. Um, yeah, if you don't want to fork out that much money, do get Lost and Found, the selections from the tracks 2 box set. Um, it's going
Fair
for
enough. Yeah.
21.95 on Amazon.ca. Check it out. Uh, Moving on with the albums. Album 2 is the Streets of Philadelphia sessions recorded between 1993 and 1994. I should say that all of the albums, minus the 83 sessions, all of the songs were recorded and produced by Bruce Springsteen and Ron and Yellow. The 83 sessions was recorded and produced by Bruce Springsteen and John Landau. So now, Streets of Philadelphia sessions, playing time of 41 minutes and 36 seconds, 10 tracks in total. Obviously, these were recorded for the during the sessions for the movie Philadelphia. Uh, Jim, your view on this?
my view on this, the one other piece of context I'll add before I give my views is that my understanding was that this was intended to be fully released to the general public, but what Bruce and co decided to do instead is do the greatest hits album, and that's why you've got
New show.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's why this got stuck on the shelf.
that's right.
Um, so I heard this album and I'm like, phew. I'm glad that this sort of takes us in a different direction than just from a songwriting standpoint, where the demos left us with disc one. Um, I think this is a fantastic record, and I think it would have sold heaps and bunches had it been out there. Certainly, it's a lot more rich and focused than what we got with Lucky Town and Human Touch. To me, this takes the promise of What's in Tunnel of Love, which is a great album. I love it dearly, and it kind of magnifies all the emotional heft that's there. I mean, so this is Bruce, you know, how many years? 5, 6 years after the divorce, after the remarriage to Patty, or
Sophia.
the
Yeah.
marriage to Patty. So, there's a lot more that he's kind of contended with and wrestled with, and I think that lends to the emotional heft that you get here. It's kind of I my notes here is that in general, it's got this theme of sort of moving beyond the heartache of what he did, with the failed marriage to Juliana. And it's really sort of entering into this negotiation of a long-term commitment and what that means to really be committed to someone, and how you have to work to make things happen, to each other's benefit, to be a supportive spouse. This is a really deep, rich, and mature record, and I'm really happy that this saw the light of day, because this is just has some fantastic stuff on it to my ears. Again, if this would have come out in the day, um, I hope I would have had the good sense to pick this up, because I think it's fantastic.
Ken?
Yeah, the I have no problem with the lyric content of these songs. I agree with Jim and what he said about it. The sound though is definitely a product of its time.
Hmm.
The heavy on the synths, the loops. Um, I'm not a real big fan of his country vocal style. Um,
I mean the twang in his voice kind of thing?
yeah,
Yeah.
that he starts right about this time. And actually, I think this is the one album, or it might be one of the a little bit later on in this box, but there were songs that I couldn't understand what words he was singing. That drawl and twang was so
Okay.
incredibly
Yeah.
thick.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, kudos on the lyrics, but I had trouble getting past the music part of it, the sonics,
Hmm.
and because that's the way my ear works. It pulls in the music first
Yeah.
and the lyrics second. Um, but um, but yeah, I think starting with this album, disc number two, the rest of the stuff in this box set are going to be fully recorded and mixed, unlike the first disc. So, but yeah, if you didn't know these songs were recorded for the streets of Philadelphia, yeah, you'd be able to tell it by the sound and the timbre and the flavor
Yeah.
of the music.
Definitely. I think that this is where he's diving into himself, like he's digging uh, retrieving into himself more, like, or retreating, sorry, is the word. It's not my day to day, guys. It's more introspective in terms
Yeah,
of the lyrical content. Maybe I Don't Know You is a good track for me. We Fell Down is another one. I do think that this should have been released. To me, this is a fully fledged album. It's been, written, it's been, recorded, engineered, mixed. It should have been released. It should have been released. And this is just evidence of the fact that he can come up with song ideas and lyrical themes. It's just so deep,
yeah,
and it's at times gut wrenching.
yeah,
It's a fantastic album. We'll talk about price point at a later time.
yeah.
But Yeah, no, and we will talk about it. But yeah,
Yeah, and I agree
it's
with you, Armando. I think maybe I Don't Know You is my favorite track off this album, I think.
yeah, yeah. And what was he talking about? Julianne at the time? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, uh, so it is a good album, and deservingly so. It should have been released. So, all right, moving
And
on,
that,
ladies and gentlemen, we come up to Faithless, recorded between 2005 2006. I believe the shortest album on the in the package at 35 minutes and 25 seconds. It says in the notes that we have this album was intended to be a soundtrack for a spiritual Western film that was never produced. According to the notes, it's still in development. Yeah, 11 tracks in total. Ken? Oh no, Jim, take it away. Ladies and gentlemen, on my screen, Ken is on my left, so I keep looking, thinking Jim is there. So Jim, go ahead.
Okay. Um, this is a challenging record to talk about on a couple of different levels. Um, First of all, at 35 minutes, it's ridiculously short. This goes back to like the 60s when people were releasing, 32-minute albums and, calling it a day. Um,
If that long, go on.
if that long, exactly. Um, the fact that there's four instrumental tracks on here, I mean, that's, nice that he was producing like these interstitial pieces to sort of go along with the film. Um, you know, if I ran the circus, frankly, I'd take the instrumentals out of there and I would have released it as an EP back in the day. Or just done the instrumentals exclusively as an online sort of thing. Um, Obviously, the official notes from Springsteen's website says that Faithless explores Springsteen's unique vision of spirituality in the mythic American West. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
The songs are really, really interesting, and I'm coming from a certain, my own walk with God, spiritual take on these things. So it's very hard for me to sort of take this stuff and kind of like really be objective about it, but I'll do my best here. Um, the song "Faithless," it's interesting. It seems that Bruce is really sort of like confronted by grace, but yet he's unable to kind of surrender to it, whether it's his own cynicism, his own brokenness, what have you. Um, All God's Children has Bruce as this sort of like Delta blues, growler. Um, he's you know, it's sort of magnifying someone making their own way, though. He's talking about all God's children, but here's a guy who's one of God's children who's like, get out of my way, I'm going to do it myself. So it's interesting that there's this sort of, I'm going to make this happen on my own sort of message that comes out of it, which I guess would be part of the unique vision that talks about Springsteen having. But yet there's other songs here like My Master's Hand, which to me is sort of the anchor of this, entire album here, it's pretty inescapable what he's talking about here. A couple of the lyric refrains like barren lands, his commands, I'll be the hammer in my master's hand. Um, Another part in the song is like, the blood of the lamb, I'll live in the shelter of my master's hand. Um, it's just really, to me, that sort of fits in with sort of the more, um, I'll call it, classic songs of faith or searching and proclamation. Um, Let me ride, give me my ticket, Lord, and let me ride. It seems like there's a lot of this that if sort of delved in farther, it could, you could end up with an album that would stand along with the trilogy that Dylan did in the late 70s, early 80s, his Christian trilogy there. Um, but I don't know. I mean, Faithless, I mean, even just by its title alone, it's an album and sort of a confession of someone struggling with stuff, which is fine. People struggle all the time. I'm
Every
looking at
single
myself when
day.
I say that. So it's an interesting peek into his heart and mind during that time. And also, some of these themes have certainly come out in some of his early songs and probably a few of the later ones too. I'm just more familiar with the earlier catalog, so that's why I
Yeah.
point to that.
Yeah.
But to me, Faithless was an astounding listen. I absolutely adored it. I think My Master's Hand, you know, is, kind of I need to sort of listen to it some more, but to me, that is the standout, not only of this little mini album, but maybe of the entire seven CD set.
Okay. Ken.
Um, this is the most, in many ways, the most interesting disc of the set. I agree with Jim. I cannot listen to this disc without um, my own perceptions and experience in faith. Um, I will differ from Jim a little bit in my speculation, and it is strictly speculation because I don't know and I would love to know that a lot of these specific ideas and themes um, are not necessarily Bruce's viewpoints, but of the characters as perceived in this film. He was obviously contracted to do this, and it seems to me that the director or writer or producers of this film would have said, okay, here is the character, here is the character's arc through the film.
Mhm.
These are the themes that we would like you to focus on at the various parts of the film. Having said that, I don't know what Springsteen's experience is with faith and Christianity and whatnot. I think he nails down the Western aspect of it.
Motif. Yeah.
Yeah, motif. Um, I'm curious as if there is someone uh, he spoke with or uh, reference to get some of the very specific aspects of spirituality and God in
Mhm.
here, because many of them are not subtle. They're not just surface. And so this is the disc that I really want more information. I really would like to see the history of what this is, and I have on my to-do list to do some more digging, on the
Yeah.
internet.
Yeah.
The music doesn't blow me away, but yeah, the lyrics are really catching my ear on this. There's aspects of Western in the music. There's definitely gospel in here.
Definitely.
Um, yeah, this was the big surprise on this box for me. Um, I I fully want to dig into it more. Jim, I agree with you on the four instrumentals, but I suspect that his music is not going to be the sole soundtrack of this album.
Yeah, it's interesting, Ken. When I read the notes on this from the website, the way it was written, I assumed that this was, this accompanying film of a spiritual Western. I thought like Bruce was behind the whole thing.
Yeah,
And I may be
it
totally wrong.
could be, but and I
Does
suspect
the
that there might have been someone else that took his themes and motifs, musical themes and motifs, and would have expanded them on orchestral, level,
Maybe.
and
Yeah.
broadened it out. I don't know, but let's face it. At 35 minutes and a half, 35 and a half minutes, that's not enough music to fill out a 90-minute film.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, or a 2 hour, yeah.
but yeah, this is a very curious, very fascinating album.
I think personally for me, I like this album a lot. I love the instrumentals on this. I
Hmm.
I think that to me, the instrumentals help tell the story of what's going on in this album. I think that had had Bruce been given, free reign, this could have been a double album soundtrack. And who knows how far it could have gone in terms of the music and the storyline. Um,
Maybe this was Bruce with a free reign. I mean, I don't know, Armando, if the
maybe.
liner notes accompanying the box talk about this in any depth.
Um, I yeah, I've been looking through the book that comes with it. It comes with a cloth covered coffee table book with notes upon notes upon notes and pictures and stuff. I think that this album, along with and I'm going to say this once because if I keep saying it, it's going to get redundant. I think that this album, along with the rest of the albums from album two going forward, I think this album talks about a character that is questioning most first and foremost his mortality, uh, and where he's come from and what he's done with his life and how much more time does he have left. And I, as someone who lost my sister at the age of 32, and she was 39, I've been questioning my mortality for the last 23 years, every single day, and it never goes away. I think that this album is a strong statement. I love the instrumentals, as I said. I love where you're going, where you're from. The title track, Faithless. I love the Western Sea. I love the little music incidentals here. The instrumental incidental pieces. I just think it's a strong album. And I think that it's unfortunate that it's been shelved up until this point. Because apparently he only let close friends hear this music, and they were always telling him, release it. Like this, thank God he did, because I think this is a very strong piece of music, and I think it could have been longer. If he wanted to, if he really dug in deep and looked into himself more, I think this could have been a double album soundtrack, and I think it could have been great.
I mean, there's certainly a very, very rich vein of raw material to kind of mine in here. Um, Obviously the struggles of one's mortality or faith and surrender and sort of wrestling with,
Yeah.
grace versus works and all these sorts of things. Again, someone could easily do a double album on these things.
Hmm.
Yeah, I would love to hear Bruce do more of this type of thing.
Yeah.
Um, if this had been released as it is, back in, let's just say, 2007, 8, which would have been about the time this probably would have hit the streets if they'd followed sort of the normal schedule. I don't know how it would have been received. I think it would have been, a little controversial. A, it's short. B, it's really digging into an area that was, pretty new for the general Bruce fan. But I think there's a lot of places, just in the critical realms where they would have just said, this is astounding. This is amazingly deep, mature, vulnerable. I mean, I was just doing a quick search here of some people talking about the Faithless album, and it's like every headline is like astounding, rich, mature, surprising. I mean,
It's interesting that this wasn't released because he's always been one to use a corny term, he's always been an artist that's followed his muse. And if this
Hmm.
was where he was musically at this point, why not release it? Why not
Well,
release it?
good Lord, Bruce's whole career is just peppered with why didn't you release this thing? Whether
Exactly.
it's just individual tracks or now we're
Exactly.
seeing full albums that were put together and
E-
shelved.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
this was the other note I have on this is that this was done in between the Devils and Dust tour
Yeah.
and the release of the Seeger Sessions
Yeah.
album that he
Yeah.
did.
Which I have.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, clearly he felt like that was the zone that he needed to present, and this other thing needed more, I don't know, percolation or whatnot. But I'm glad that there were those people in his life that said, "You got to get this out here, man. This
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
astounding stuff."
Yeah. No, it's true. It's true. All right. The next album in the set is Somewhere North of Nashville. Recorded in 1995 alongside the Ghost of Tom Joad sessions. The title track was eventually, according to the notes, eventually re-recorded and included on Western Stars in 2019 with a playing time of 36 minutes and 57 seconds. Jim?
Somewhere North of Nashville is an album of country rock rave ups,
Yeah,
pedal steel mishaps, and a collection of songs probably better left performed by others.
as
Um,
quoted by.
Me.
Oh, I thought you were reading a review. Okay, fine.
No, this was my thoughts on the whole album. Yes, it's my review, dang it.
Okay,
Um, I there's there's some nice stuff on here, but overall, as like a Bruce record, it just doesn't it it's not a suit that looks good on him. That's the best way I can think about describing it is that he's
nice
sort of
analogy.
take oh, thank you. He's taken on this style of music and it's like, how does it fit? It's not quite for you, man. That's not your best look. Um, there's a cover version of the 60s classic Poor Side of Town on here. That's, a great song. I love that
The
song.
best
I
song
think
on the album. Yeah.
I think and
Yeah.
that is saying something. I mean, again, that song is a classic for a reason.
Yeah.
And it just sort of stands in high relief with the rest of the tunes that are on here. Bruce applies this sort of country rock rave up pedal steel thing, towards Poor Side of Town, so it fits stylistically. But again, in this bad suit analogy, it just seems like this weird elbow patch that it just kind of stands out and
Okay.
detracts from the rest of the stuff that's on here. There's actually one of the interesting things for me on this record is that you've basically got the same song on here twice, just with different lyrics, and that's with Detail Man and Repo Man. Repo Man, if I recall, is the song that kicks off the album,
Yep.
and it sure seems like Detail Man is another swag at that tune, but with a different lyrical approach.
Okay.
And to me, that's really interesting to kind of see, you know, that element of Bruce's songwriting process. It's like
Yeah.
what fits best with, what's going on here.
Yeah.
So that is a gem on this album for me. Poor Side of Town is the other gem. But, to me, this is another just kind of meh, kind of a swing and a miss. I
Okay.
think I think some of the other songs would have just done well if they had been attempted by people with kind of more real country roots to them or sort of bluegrass roots. I think it would have come off as there would have been a more authentic flavor to it.
Okay. All right. Ken, you have your point?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The thing that struck me, I didn't watch the or look to see the song lineup when I first listened to this, and it gets to the third track, "Poor Side of Town," and it was a little bit of a shock to the system. And his songwriting, the form and structure of his songs, he
Mhm.
does a lot of things over and over and over again. I'm not saying that I'm not saying that all of his songs sound the same. I'm not saying he uses all the same chord progressions, but there are definite key similarities in his music during the 90s, the late 80s and 90s that uh, and so when you've got the Johnny Rivers song Poor Side of Town, which is not in those musical tropes, it really stood out to me. Now, and I say that fully admitting I've always loved the Johnny Rivers song, but I didn't recognize that as a cover when I first heard it. I just
Yeah.
thought, wait a minute, this song is different somehow. Um, so I think, yeah, his performance doesn't fit him well on this as far as style. But I think part of the weakness of these songs are just um, uh, his innate habits that he goes back to when he's writing songs as far as form. And there again, I'll say again, I'm not a fan of his country drawl uh,
Yeah.
voice,
Yeah.
and also, man, it's too much steel pedal, too much steel guitar. I mean, it just really seemed. I felt like I was getting hit over the head with it. It was
You mean
so
he,
prominent in the mix,
yeah, you mean he
you
kind
know.
of fell into a pocket in terms of a musical style and use of musical instrument and just stayed there for a bit, right? I
Kind of,
mean,
yeah,
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 okay.
yeah. I
Okay.
mean, it was very obvious this was recorded the same time of the Tom Joad sessions,
Yeah.
which whereas I'm not a big fan of the Joad album, I do find it very interesting, but it's not one that I go and visit, very often
Hmm.
just because it makes me feel good. But and the Somewhere North of Nashville, um, the Western Stars version is just intimately better than this version. He was just going a little bit too country on this. I like much better what he did later that we will talk about really soon.
Okay. Okay. My view on this album, I mean, it's all right. I mean, I share a lot of the sentiment that Ken said, about, the Western drawl being used quite a bit. And yeah, it's okay.
Mhm.
It's okay. I don't, I need to maybe sit with it a little more since, because it's not, it's not an album that I go back to right away, but, it's good. It's good. But again,
Yeah.
you know, um, I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it at that with this album. Um, Next up, we have album number five, Inyo. There's no Inyo, Inyo.
Inyo.
It's not
Record,
in your face. Yeah, it's
yeah, no,
just
it's not Inyo. No, it's Inyo. Uh, in your face. Okay. Recorded during the Ghost of Tom Joad tour between 95 and 97 with a playing time of 41 minutes and 37 seconds. Jim, what is your view of Inyo?
Inyo.
Inyo.
Definitely you're hearing the ghost of Tom Joad in here. And to me, the quick byline is that this album is the ghost of Tom Joad meets Los Lobos.
Definitely.
So you kind of feel that traditional, Mexican music feeling from Los Lobos sort of applied thematically to
Yeah.
what's going on with the characters and the themes from Ghost of Tom Joad. Springsteen's website says that this album is sort of ballads focused on the Mexican diaspora. So people trying to get over the border and do things.
Yeah. Yeah.
To me, again, this album is kind of a swing and a miss, just because there's not, with the exception of the song "When I Build My Beautiful House." To me, the rest of this album is just sort of meh. It doesn't do much at all. And I don't know if this sort of falls into the rut, Ken, that you were talking about Springsteen's songwriting, how it has these typical form and function things, and he just kind of stays in that wheelhouse too much. Um, you know, again, when I build my beautiful house, I think is the standout on this record. But even that is
Yeah,
in the rut. It's
yeah.
just there's a lot more happening melodically and thematically that just makes it a better track.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay. Ken?
Yeah, well said. And I was a little bit skeptical about this album from the first track on Eno because that was the track that specifically I was trying to understand what he was singing. I've got on my notes next to Eno dash mumbling. Come on. Um, and yeah,
Okay.
it's definitely got the Jode vibes. Um, it's not that far removed from the previous album on this box set. Um, but yeah, I think Jim summed it up very well. I would say the same thing. So I will, but I won't.
But you
Okay.
said you will.
But he
But I,
won't. Okay.
Okay. All
Um,
it's like
right.
when Armando says, "But we won't go there." Well, you just did. Yeah.
well, and I'm about to go here.
Oh,
Okay, you go,
make a
brother.
run.
I
Run
like
for the
this
border.
album. Yeah, really. With my legs, I can't even walk too. Jesus Christ, I'd fall on my ass. I like this album. Uh, I mean, I never expected to hear a mariachi band on some spots. Do you know what I mean? Ole, that kind of thing. I didn't expect
Hmm.
that. But I mean, standout tracks are the title track for me, Indian Town, Adelita, the Aztec Dance, The Lost Charro, El Jardinero is good. Um, One False Move is really good. I do like that track. And you know, uh, when I'm building a beautiful house, I those are good songs. And the thing is, as we're doing this long-winded review, and I mean
It's a
that
long-winded album, so
Yeah.
in the best possible sense. I mean that in the best because I love spending time with you too. Uh, in at the end of the day, an artist can only do what moves them and what inspires them. And
true.
him
Hopefully.
with Springsteen, if this is where he was at in his musical development, who are we to say that it was wrong overall?
Oh,
I,
right. I'm
I
not saying
mean,
it's wrong or
no,
inauthentic
but
or hackneyed or anything,
yeah,
but
yeah, but
it just doesn't hit.
there's two sides of that coin. There's that side of the coin about, why should we question it? But there's the other side of the coin where it's like, okay, where is the variety in what he's doing? I mean, this album does have good points to it. I need to sit with the albums more, but yeah, he's still in the introspective, introverted kind of, reflective mode at this point in time.
Hmm.
And yeah, the mariachi band influences. I'm sorry, it's like, okay, arriba, it's like,
Well, it
yeah,
sounds like from the notes that I had read a little bit about this that a
yeah,
lot of Inyo comes from him just basically going on almost days long motorcycle rides,
yeah,
leaving his house from the, Tawny Hills in Hollywood somewhere with he and his wife and family, and he's just getting on the bike and going. And
yeah,
as he's heading east out to the desert and probably a little south, he's discovering these pockets and these communities here that kind of inform what
yeah.
led
And
to him writing a lot
obviously,
of the songs on Eno.
it formed his basis for writing this album, and that's fine. I mean, it's a good album. It's a good album. Um, would it have done better release as a standalone album? I have no idea.
Yeah.
I have no idea, but it is a good album overall.
And
Uh,
as far as the what you said about not being a lot of variety, however, if you're into this sound, you're probably you're gonna
yeah,
love it. There's
yeah,
there's a lot of music we talk about here where an artist overall, but in particular, individual albums will
hmm
just have that pocket that is runs straight from the first track to the last track,
yeah,
and we absolutely love them. But a lot of people that don't love that album or the artist, a lot of times they'll say, "Oh, there's no variety. It all sounds the same."
yeah,
The
Right.
first time I heard Pat Metheny Group
yeah,
live, um, I brought along a couple of friends that were not familiar with Pat Metheny. And of course, I was blown away by that concert, absolutely mind blown. And when we were traveling back from New Orleans from the concert, I said, "Well, what'd you think?" And I was very excited. And I said, "It all sounded the same."
You're like,
My head
huh?
almost
Yeah,
exploded for a completely different reason.
yeah. You're
So
like, what? Like, what do you think?
yeah,
Yeah,
and they would
yeah.
probably would have taken me to an Air Supply concert, which I would have just, swallowed some cyanide or something to get out of it. But
Yeah,
there you
yeah, I get that. I get that. Talk about being caught in a bear trap, right? I mean, okay, fuck.
go. Okay, anyway,
I'm all out of love. Okay,
Do we
never mind.
digress?
No, we
yeah,
digress.
that's my fault.
Major,
Yes.
major. No, seriously,
What a good point.
seriously. Um, Up next we have album six, Twilight Hours. Playing time of 55 minutes and 54 seconds. Originally recorded between 2010, 2011, and 2017 and 2018 during the Western Stars sessions. Jim.
Hell yes, I love this album. I
Mm.
just think this is outstanding. And I think a lot of it is because Bruce is allowing himself to be informed by, or he's channeling his inner Burt Bacharach.
Yeah,
And
Because,
Jimmy Webb.
yeah.
and Jimmy Webb,
Jimmy
yes,
Yeah.
Webb.
thank you, thank you.
Hello.
The, yeah, this is just, it's
Ooh.
harmonically and emotionally matured, like much like how I talked about the Streets of Philadelphia sessions. This kind of takes those sessions and just really kicks it up a notch in terms of the depth and the longing. I just, except for like a few naff tracks on this record, like Sunliner comes to mind. Um, I think this is just fantastic. It's like a whole new side of Bruce that has this lushness and depth and creativity in his songwriting that isn't normally there from a harmonic and melodic standpoint. The only other thing I'll say about this record is that sometimes his voice is not up to the task of what the melody or the key demands. And again, I think that um, there might be some people with stronger voices who could handle some of this material maybe a little better technically, but from the standpoint of like the entire album, um, yeah, I wince a little bit at those songs where Bruce isn't quite up to snuff, but generally, I think this whole album works fantastically well. Um, you know, so far we're 6 discs in, and this whole set is kind of three meh and three like, oh yeah, this is great. And this is definitely one of the this is great albums.
Yeah. Ken?
Yeah, this is my highlight of the box set. I have mentioned probably ad nauseum many times on the channel how much I love the Western Stars album. Um, Springsteen recorded a brief little mini documentary. I think it's in the box set, but it's also available on YouTube. So check it out,
We'll put the
where he
link for
talks
it.
about each of the albums. And the story is he recorded this during the Western Star session, and in this said it could have been a double album. But he said what he did was is he separated the specifically Western themed songs for Western stars, and these
Yeah.
are the ones that got let out, even though there's some of them that would fit that theme. Yeah, big flavors of Jimmy Webb and Burt Bacharach and other albums. This album, and what I say about this album, I would also say about Western Stars. This is Bruce really going full vocals. I mean, and Jim, I understand what you're saying, but at the same time, him trying to pull off some of these incredible vocals at his age,
Yeah.
these are
Yeah.
not these are not subtle vocal melodies.
Yeah.
These are melodic. These are soaring.
Yeah.
And on Western Stars, there's several that, he's going way up to like an F sharp or a G on some of those high notes, I believe. Um, but anyway, so this is him abandoning that country western drawl and really doing some singing. And this is someone from, I spent thousands of dollars to get a bachelor's degree on vocal performance. So, and it really stands out. Also, he abandons those um, up until then stereotypical songwriting traps. These songs do not follow standard chordal progressions, and that's why it reminds me of Jimmy Webb. One reason it reminds me of Webb and Bacharach, because some of these on both the albums, uh, yeah, those are some complex compositions right there. And it's lovely that they use an expanded band and or orchestra to really fill out that scope.
Hmm.
Starting off with Sunday Love, and I understand why they released this as a single before, because it's really just overall encompasses what this album is.
Yeah.
It's maybe just a tad too sweet, but man, yeah, it sets the stage for the rest of this. Follow it late in the evening is such a wonderful song. Lonely Town, holy cow, that is broad, it's complex, it's so cinematic.
Yeah.
It just
Very much so.
it's multi-sectional, just absolutely amazing. And the closing song, Follow the Sun, that's got a big Bacharach vibe in there.
Yeah.
So this is him from, as far as Ken, um, like I said, this was West. I made my own separate playlist and, whatever of this album to go along with Western Stars because it fills in the gaps. My first listen to it was like, okay, it's second-rate songs, but even from the second listen and subsequent listens, it's like, no, this is really good stuff here.
Yeah.
And September Kisses, oh, that trumpet, just adds so much to it.
Yeah.
I'm going to shut up about it, otherwise I'll keep going. I love this album. It's
Yeah.
not
No,
perfect, but man, it's wonderful.
no, this album for me is a standout of the albums in the box set. This should have been released. There's melody, there's heartfelt lyrics. To me, this is an album. Again, it's very much for me about uh, atmosphere and images. It's an album where you can picture two people sitting outside on the porch, or as we say, veranda, on a summer night, sitting there with a coffee, just talking about anything and everything. And the hours go by, and that you lose yourself within each other, and you don't care about what is happening around you, but you're just so locked into one another. And I'm not talking romantic
Yeah.
issues here. I'm talking about this album reignites the human condition in terms of communication. And I love it. I love
Yeah.
it. I'm 55 this year. This album brings me back to wanting to revisit my youth in my
Huh.
20s and 30s and that communication with family members. certain members we won't mention because they're shit, but we won't go there. Um, but certain family members and friends that you want to reconnect and reignite that human connection with. And this it starts from Sunday Love, late in the evening, two of us, Lonely Town, September Kisses, the title track. Oh my God! Like boom, 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 right off the like the first six tracks, you're off and running, and
Yep.
there's melody and there's punch, but in a very subtle way. In terms of what pulls you in, it draws you in. This,
Yeah.
oh my God, this should have been released.
Yeah,
This should,
and Jim nailed it on the head when he talks about as far as the songwriting, the maturity in the songwriting, the lyrics. One of the things I love about Western Stars, um, it's written. All the songs are written from the viewpoint of someone
yeah,
in the golden years.
yeah.
So
It's in
there is the present, and then there's looking back on the past,
there. It's an
and
album.
that's something
Yeah,
that someone at 65
yeah,
that just hits me right here in the middle of my chest.
yeah.
And yeah, this is
It's an album
old
of,
man soul food.
oh,
There you go.
it's an album of introspection and reflection and capturing what's in front of you and holding on to it and not wanting to let it go. I'm blubbering, I'm sorry, but this album just knocked me right between the eyes and just like, my God, it just really affected me
Yeah,
so much. More, give me more. Don't let up. This is what we want,
Yeah.
and more of it.
right.
Sunliner included. I mean,
Yeah,
not every album is gonna have a song that you
yeah,
like at 100%. The songs are lengthier, like 6 minutes sometimes, and like more broad in scope and arrangement, but it works on so many levels. I'm sorry. Like, help me, Lord. Jesus
yeah.
Christ.
I have
Um,
one more comment for those listening.
yeah,
Um, I've read online lots of disparaging comments saying that the lyrics are shallow, they're cliche, blah blah blah.
they don't get
Uh,
it.
that it's and so someone reading that hasn't heard this or Western Stars before may put them off from visiting this. Don't give it a shot.
Take a
If you don't
chance.
like it, don't like it because you tried it and don't like it. Don't take
Right.
someone else. Don't even take our word for it. Um, yes, the themes and everything are not new, but they are incredible because they're true.
And songs like to finish off the album, Another You, Dinner at Eight. It's like,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
Follow the Sun. I mean, like, my God, it's just I'm at a loss for words right now. And for a big mouth like me, that's saying a lot. Uh, it's it's sublime. It
it
is
is.
that this should have been released. And what were you thinking not doing so? It's just unreal.
No,
Like my God. But I
you
guess
gave
better
it
late
to us.
than never, right?
You got it. Mm.
The final album, album seven in the box set, is Perfect World. Recordings from 1994 to 2011, with a playing time of 41 minutes and 4 seconds, 10 tracks in total. Jim, you have the floor.
I have the floor. Thank you. So you said this was from 94 through 2011?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Um, this album to me, you know, it's called Perfect World. It's not perfect, but it's pretty darn good. To me, this is at least on par with Letter to You.
Okay, I get
For the
that.
life of me, I have no idea why Bruce released a soul covers album as opposed to putting this out on the market. Um, there was one commenter that, yeah, we guess we'll skip that.
No, I get it.
Um, there's one commenter that I read that said that, they were also very perplexed about why Bruce didn't do something with this material because kind of the raw material of the larger sort of E Street Band sound is present in a lot of these songs. And had these been like road tested and worked out and you just hammered on, a little at a time, night after night, you could have come up with a really, really great album out of these songs. As it is, it's pretty good.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, like I said, it's at least on par with Letter to You, which I think most people would feel of Bruce's more of his later work. That's one of the standouts of it.
mhm,
Um, again, look at the entirety of this thing. You've got 7 discs. You've got four hits and 3 misses, which in baseball you're a legend if you
yeah,
have those kinds of stats.
yeah. Ken,
Yeah, I agree. Um, it's solid. It is. It's interesting. It feels like maybe what it is, just like, okay, we've got these individual tracks, that, and so let's make a specific album of, you um, it's like when artists do things with B-sides and stuff like
yeah,
that. But
yeah,
not my favorite of the box, but yeah, there's some quite nice stuff here. Very variety of styles, obviously from 94 to 2011. So, and I'm not sure if there's any particular one song that stands out, which is not necessarily a bad thing.
hmm.
So, yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, I before we started taping, I had said I'd listened to up to track 6,
Mhm.
"Rain in the River." I'm trying to get through all the albums. Um, I need to sit with this album some more,
Yeah.
but it is a good album. You know, uh, my overall, my general feeling of these albums from second album on is basically this. The music on these albums, lyrically, thematically, is basically about it could be about two friends who haven't seen each other in years or and I've lost touch and I've got back together and I've sat down and over a coffee and said, "How are you? How are things? What's going on in your life? I'll tell you what's going on in mine," and just conversing and getting to know one another, reigniting the human connection and the human
Yeah.
condition. That is what these albums from second album on represent to me. And for me, that's worth its weight in gold
Yeah.
overall.
Yeah.
Obviously, with this much material amassed in one collection, certain songs are going to hit you more than others, which is normal.
Yeah.
Which is normal. I dare anybody out there watching to say they're gonna that they like every single song on every album that their favorite artist has released. I dare you to tell me that because
Yeah.
you know what? It isn't possible. But
Yeah.
I do believe that again, the majority of the music on this set, this album included, does reignite the human condition and the human connection
Hmm.
with one another. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. I'm dying to hear what he's doing next with his new album because there is a new
Yeah.
album coming out.
Yeah.
I'm waiting with bated breath for that. I just think it's fantastic. I think it's fantastic. It's these songs are not born in the USA. They're not Tunnel of Love. They're not the river. And you know what? They're not meant to be. This is what we call artist evolution and progression. It's just I don't mean to sound condescending. It's just that this is the definition of that. So it's again, it's worth its weight in gold in that too for me. So I'll get off my soapbox. But I have far to fall. But it's true. It's true. Now, let's talk about price point.
Okay.
How much is this going for online in the States, ladies? I was going to say, ladies and gentlemen, gentlemen.
I,
Let me take a quick look. Let's see what Amazon has it for. Amazon has the lost albums for $299.99. That is the CD version,
Okay. So no.
US.
Okay. In Canada, the CD version is going for a whopping $377. Again, Canadian, 400 plus for the 9 vinyl LP version. When I unpacked this SOB, because it was a monster to unpack, there was more paper than CD in terms of packaging. I personally believe that if you had knocked this down about $100 to 120, you would have had a good price point to go by. I'm sorry, that's just my opinion. It is what it is. Your viewpoints on that, gentlemen?
Well, just using basic math, I mean, $300, let's just call it what it is, $300 US at 7 CDs, that's $42 a CD. So again,
No,
this book better be like frickin' East of Eden if you want to justify that cost in terms of
yeah,
what you get from it.
it it it
It's
does come
overpriced.
it does come with a cloth bound hardcover book
yeah,
with notes and pictures and little paraphernalia throughout the book
packaging. Yeah,
packaging. But no, it is way overblown and way overpriced. I am surprised that this was allowed to be priced at the price point it is with this
yeah, and
set.
Amazon has the vinyl for $340.
American. So
American, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, really, is vinyl production, that much more expensive than CD? Could be, could be. I don't know, but I kind of suspect the record companies, might be trying to take advantage of um, the trendy vinyl
yeah,
people,
Probably.
right?
yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, in closing, if you do want to get this set, by all means, please do. I will
Yes,
caution you to say go to your local record store if they carry it, go to Amazon, go to his site to get it. Do not go on Discogs and be pulled in by secondary sellers who are going to try and pull money out of you until you see signs of loss of blood. That's how much they want to get from you for this set. Um,
yeah,
it's good, but it's not worth, I'll say, like $1,200 for this because I know that's what people are going to try and get from you. Don't be pulled into it. Please get it from
The other thing,
Amazon.
the other thing to say about that, I'm sorry, Armando,
So go ahead.
is, this is on all the streaming services, whether you're
And
Spotify, YouTube, Apple
YouTube.
Music,
Yeah,
whatever, you
yeah,
know,
get it. Hey, listen to
try before you buy.
yeah, listen to it
yeah.
on YouTube. Listen
And
to it on
I
YouTube.
would, yeah, and I keep meaning to mention this when we're talking about things like this. Um, if it's not out of print, please support your local stores, your local record stores. I know I live here in a pretty fairly large city in southern Louisiana. We've got one record store. We don't have the choices we had before. Amazon makes things a lot easy, as far as getting things, but um, and sometimes on these expensive things, you got to watch your nickels and dimes. But if you can support your local retailer
Please do.
and retailer, please do,
Please do.
because they're just like us. They're music lovers and they're
There-
trying to provide a service, to you directly. So
That's right. That's right. Yeah, there's yeah, not much more that can be said after that.
yeah,
I was going to go on a diatribe, but I chose not to. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. And very special, very special album review on the Bruce Springsteen Big Ass Box Set Tracks 2. Please check it out and on YouTube and on other streaming services and let us know what you think of it. It's a lot of music. It's quite pricey, but overall, you will enjoy it. You will
yeah.
enjoy it.
If it's
And
your
we're gonna,
thing, do
yeah,
it.
and we're gonna put the link for the 17-minute documentary that with Bruce Springsteen describing the workings of these albums and the reasons for these albums. So please check that out. For Ken and Jim, I'm Armando signing off. Again, please click like and subscribe and do hit the notification bell to keep yourselves on top of any new content we got coming out. There's a lot of stuff coming up. So please look after yourselves and one another, and we'll see you soon next time on The Music Den. Bye for now.